morning. You're listening to Drinking Socially, the haunted Untappd podcast.
Your spooky look into what's happening in the Untappd community and the world of beer.
This episode is brought to you by Untappd and the Untappd store. Go to store.untappd.com and use the coupon code podcast for a really nice trick or treat. Actually, it's 20% off your next purchase.
A treat, yeah. Perfect. Well, I'm Harrison, and as we just alluded to, we are knee-deep into spooky season right now, folks. And John and I hope you've been able to cozy up to some Oktoberfest and pumpkin beers, some fresh cider, and, of course, candy this month like we have. We're going to be doing something, or we'd be doing you guys all a disservice if we didn't enjoy another kind of beer, because, well, this time of year, TNT would have called this beer enjoyed today maybe a new classic. Back in the day when TNT was saying that about everything, like the Wild Wild West movie for some reason that Will Smith did. It's because
Instant classic.
Right. This may not be making all like the hip seasonal beer list, this kind of beer. But as always, Drinking Socially, we're just one step ahead. We're talking about monster beers, and I don't mean like a really big beer. If you're looking for that, go back to our Stovepipe episode. We enjoyed Stone's IPA. I'm talking about beers that are actually named after monsters. So right now, go grab your favorite creature feature crafty and let's wolf out on some special brews that may just bite back. John, what are we drinking tonight? What do we got?
That was a great lead-in. So tonight, we're drinking a beer from Rogue Ales, who Harrison talked about a year ago. From John Mayer's Beard beer.
Oh, yeah.
Tonight, it's the Batsquatch from Rogue Ales, as Harrison is showing off on YouTube. I'm excited. This is a New England IPA, but it's a monster beer, as Harrison alluded to, which is perfect for this time of year. The metrics on this beer are it's a 6.7 ABV, and it brings 54 IBUs, which I'm going to say is a little bit high for a New England, but we'll see how it actually tastes, which is more important. The story about this beer that Rogue gives us is that for years, rumors have circled that the deep in the woods of Mount St. Helens lives the fabled Batsquatch. Where there are many tales of the Batsquatch, they're all a bit hazy on the details, kind of like this beer. That's a beautiful shot, Harrison, which makes the truth such a juicy mystery. So what better way to honor the elusive legend than with a hazy IPA? Perfect for camping, potentially making a new friend, Batsquatch. This juicy, cloudy IPA features intense tropical flavors and aromas. Harrison, as you're diving in, how'd they do?
This is fantastic. So, first sip for me is melon in the nose, big old melon nose, and it kind of tastes like, if you remember the dehydrated mango slices of your youth, perhaps. Wow. Like a candied fruit is what I get. Boom in the nose. It's got a great body, like a really good. It's pillowy, it's fluffy, but it's not thin at all. It's like it's sometimes you get light and fluffy and it's light, but this one is like, there's some great body to it, but it's melon in the nose for me, dehydrated fruit in the mouth, and Batsquatch magic in between. What about you, John?
I think you got it.
What are your first sips?
So you did me the service and or the disservice of saying like dehydrated mango.
Yep.
As I was smelling it. But then I dove in, I took a sip, and that was it. You just put it in my head, and then it existed in this beer. The most interesting part about this, 57 IBUs, I don't care. I don't really get, there's a little, I would say, more dryness than bitterness.
Yes.
But as like, after you swallow the beer and you kind of do that, you know, I get in there is when I get this like rich, deep, dark, almost like burnt mango at a campfire. Like that's where I am right now with this beer.
Deep in the woods, right?
It's good, dude. It's good. Plus, the can's beautiful.
Can art's hilarious.
You got this monster Batsquatch jumping out of the can.
Love it.
I would have never thought Batsquatch Mango New England IPA. Thank you for doing this, Rogue.
Exactly. Dedicated to the legend, and a legend it is. We're going to get a little bit more into that in a little bit. We have some tales to spin by the virtual campfire here tonight. But yeah, this has been, first sips, home run. This is great.
I'm going to be drinking this hopefully most of the way through this podcast. I might end up drinking a little too quick. Normally, we'd transition at this point. We'd be talking about the BJCP style guidelines, but we just talked about them in episode 22 with Homestyle from Bearded Iris. So while a quick recap is that the New England is a variant of an American IPA, but you'll get a lot of fruit flavors because most of the hops are added later in the boil.
Awesome. So yeah, let's get some questions about this style, this New England IPA style. So John, are they really from New England, all of them?
Well, I mean, I think it's right. They wouldn't have called it New England IPA if, well, never mind. There's Brooklyn style pizza, and I think a variant of a late hop edition beer has existed in many different ways. But I'll say, from my lens, The Alchemist was the first one to introduce me to what later became known as the New England style IPA or Hill Farmstead. And, breweries like Treehouse are really making this style well known. So, yes, I'm going to say the style that we all drink and love and refer to colloquially as the New England style IPA, I'm going to say that we know it all because of what New England brewers did to make it well known. So yeah, I'll say that, sure, other people did it, but we know it because of what New England did. I don't know if that makes sense. Yeah. But a question for you, Harrison, what makes a New England style IPA different than a regular IPA,
Sure. Yeah, and it's kind of like where to begin. It's all, as you've said before, I mean, a true New England has almost no perceived bitterness, but it's very hop forward. It's just a lot of late hop additions. The hops aren't putting bitterness into that beer. They're instead adding tons of flavor. That's why they're described as juicy, tropical, fruit forward, all that stuff. The hops are just doing different things in these beer than they would in like a West Coast IPA or an East Coast IPA, which existed a long time ago as well. But yeah, so very different. Yeah, not as bitter. Obviously hazy compared to transparent, which a lot of kind of classic IPAs were. So they're almost unrecognizable. But if you're a fan of hops and you've enjoyed plenty of beers with them, you're gonna get some of those same flavors you would in a West Coast in a New England, but showing up a little bit differently. So, even though they share the same IPA family, they're kind of on opposite ends there in terms of the actual experience when you enjoy this beer. All right. So, John, knowing all that, why do you think these things are so popular, these New England IPAs? What's the deal? Is it just because they look good or look weird, or what's happening? What are your thoughts?
I mean, so taste it. That's my first challenge as to why is it so popular.
Yep.
People are gonna, just like anything in the world, half of the people are, not even half, less than half of the people are going to say New England styles ruin beer. Yeah, it's expensive. It's a different style. It's really labor intensive. You have to be a really good brewer to make a good New England style IPA. But why did they become so popular? Part of me wants to say Instagram. I mean, take a picture. These hazy beers look gorgeous. Like, they're easy to photograph, and Instagram tells the world what's cool.
Yep.
But also Untappd. I mean, New England IPAs are some of the top-rated beers in the last couple of years. So I think they're popular because they're so dang good. But also they photograph well. That's my rogue bit of knowledge.
Like that, right? It's the picture tells 1,000 somethings or whatever that thing is.
The picture tells 1,000 somethings.
That's it. That's a Goosebumps book. That one's.
Speaking of 1,000 somethings and spooky things, Harrison, have you heard of the term juice wolf?
Juice wolves. I'm relatively familiar with this. Kind of someone who got swept up in the haze craze, I believe, who just can't get enough.
I think you're right. Are they real? Like, what do you think about juice wolves?
Well, I mean, certainly, yeah. I've seen lines wrapping around the blocks of breweries for that sweet single $18 can of beer that's, got 20 pounds of hops per barrel or whatever insane stat it's touting. So, and people are lining up to enjoy that thing. So, I mean, I've got plenty of stories I've heard of people traveling multiple states to get these beers and trading for them and paying a ton for them. And yeah, so there's definitely, a kind of a fan base here, if you will, that's pretty rabid, much like many of the wolves in North America. It's a problem.
You heard it here first.
Right.
All wolves are rabid.
Right, it's a problem. Don't stick around to find out. Just take my word for it and move along. But yeah, so yeah, I've definitely come across some pretty fanatical hazy IPA fans. Juice Wolf's a pretty cool name, so why not just accept it? If someone calls you a Juice Wolf, just wolf out and enjoy and own it. Hazy IPAs all day. All right, so coming to hazy IPAs, where can I, or New England's, and we're discussing them today. John, what breweries make, in air quotes, the best ones, but really what are the ones that people should be looking out for, or important ones to know because of, we already spoken a little bit about some of these, kind of because they started this style for all intents and purposes.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. The best ones, thank you for air quoting that, because the best is subjective. Everybody on Untappd has heard of Treehouse. Arguably, they make the best ones according to you, right? The listeners, the Untappd users. The Answer out of Richmond, Virginia, Alvarado Street out on the West Coast, or Monkish out on the West Coast, Reuben's Brews further up north, Weldworks in the middle.
Oh, man.
Weldworks makes incredible New England IPAs. Close to me, New Anthem in Wilmington, North Carolina. Not just a local favorite. I mean, those guys are talented. But I think the best IPA is the one that's freshest and or the one that's closest to you, right? A year ago, 2 years ago, you couldn't find a New England. Did you just open another can, Harris?
I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what's happening.
The best IPA is the best New England IPA for sure is the one that's closest to you, that's freshest. A couple of years ago in Texas, I don't think you could find them. Now you got Sam Adams and Sierra Nevada that are helping kind of proliferate New England IPAs through distribution. There's brewers in Vietnam that are making them fresh, in Hanoi. So the best one is the one that you can get the closest to you, right? That's going to be my advice. But definitely, if you're near Alvarado Street or Weldworks, I'm jealous of you.
Don't take that for granted. Grab some beer from them as much as you can. I'm right there with you, John. That's great advice. Cool.
Now, a couple of data points about this one, this particular beer. Almost. In fact, by the time you're listening to this episode, it's probably been checked in a little over 80,000 times on Untappd. The New England IPA style kind of started rising to fame on Untappd in 2017, about 3 years ago. And then in 2018, 2 years in a row, the New England style IPA was the most growing style. American IPA has won it for years and years on Untappd, but New England demonstrated the most, kind of rising star, right?
Yeah.
Ratings, if you look at by style, the New England IPA is probably the top rated style of beer, maybe edging out stout or pastry stout. This is like Treehouse, Trillium. Again, we kind of talked about it. All the beers that, you see like I'm in search of and I would like to trade if it were legally able to talk about trading beers. Originally credited to brewers from New England, right? We kind of talked about this earlier, the Alchemist and Hill Farmstead, but now through the magic of Instagram and Untappd and people telling you that this is a great beer, St. Petersburg, Russia, Sweden, in Gothenburg, Sweden, and Oslo, Norway, you'll find some of the best New England IPAs in the world.
Right.
So literally look anywhere, anywhere that you can find this beer. And here's an awkward transition, Harrison.
Okay.
What's your favorite Halloween movie?
Favorite Halloween movie?
Yeah, do you have like a Halloween tradition, much like your Die Hard
and Christmas? Sure.
Yep.
Absolutely. So I do pretty much every year, like clockwork. I'll put on the first 4 Black Sabbath albums right when the kids start coming towards the door. Blast that out the window, just to let all the parents know what they're getting into. Because our house is already, and has been for probably about a month and a half, decorated the tens outside with spiders and cobwebs and a headless scarecrow, all kinds of stuff. The neighborhood loves it.
That's there all year.
Yeah, right, exactly. We just put a Santa head on the scarecrow, and then we just leave him there after Christmas. Yeah, put that on early, and then without fail, every year I try to grab a pumpkin beer. I'll probably enjoy maybe some more of Dogfish Head's Pumpkin from the other episode, the pumpkin we did this year on Drinking Socially. Or maybe Deep River's Pumpkin Pie Porter, which we had last year, which is one of my kind of seasonal favorites. Enjoy that, and then I'll watch Halloween, the original, and then probably Trick or Treat, which came out more recently, which is one of my favorite Halloween movies. It's kind of like a quick anthology of 4 stories in one in a small town on Halloween night. Hilarious, scary, fun. I recommend it if you haven't checked it out. Trick or Treat. So I'll usually watch those 2 movies, have some beers, steal my kids' Halloween candy, and then go to bed with a new high score blood sugar and wake up the next day feeling less than great. But that's the goal every year. Hopefully I land somewhere around that and check off half of those boxes, and I'll be more than happy. Yeah. What about you, John? Is there anything you try to do each year, or Halloween? What's the plan?
Halloween for me, I want to watch Trick or Treat. I'd never heard of it before.
Oh, dude, it's a blast.
So that's probably on my list this year.
Yes, a lot of juice wolves in that movie. You'll see. If you know, I'm winking. If you know about that movie, you know what I'm talking about. Great movie.
So let's Juice Wolf. Nope, that's not a Halloween movie yet. We should work on this in our infinite free time.
Patent pending.
Here's a question though, and it's a would you rather. And it draws from Halloween movies. Okay. Harrison, we drink beer.
We do.
We just talked about breweries and breweries that do New England's. And here's a question: if you were going to drink a beer on Halloween, would you rather it's made by a witch or Dr. Frankenstein?
Interesting. Or perhaps Dr. Frankenstein is...
Well, yeah.
That's a Young Frankenstein joke. Well, I'd be worried about the witch's beer, especially if the witch was the Wicked Witch of the West, because it would probably be flat. That's right. That's a Wizard of Oz joke because she got a house dropped on her.
Great.
What's happening? I'm in the zone, John. The Batsquatch is working. Let's lay this out though, for real. Let's be serious about this hypothetical witch or Dr. Frankenstein beer. It's kind of, for me, it's a little. Initially it's a toss-up because you got a doctor in the house, so understands chemistry, biology. Sure, he's got kind of an interesting take on morality, but hopefully that doesn't come into beer making. It probably should at some point, right? Like we're not stealing people's grain, things like that. Let's be ethical here. So that gives me pause, but he probably can quickly, figure out how a brew house works and make a solid beer. Then you've got the witch. You've got, someone who maybe throwing in kind of crazy adjuncts. I wouldn't be surprised if a witch makes the next New England IPA, maybe a pastry IPA or a New England Stout. What does that even mean? I don't know, but if anyone's going to make it, it's going to be a witch throwing, tails of a newt and eyes of a bat and, extra oats into things. So there's pros and cons right away to each. It's kind of tough to pick. I guess if I was, a riverboat gambler, I may go with the witch because more risk there. She's making it in a dirty cauldron. she may be dead. She may have want to bake me into a pie. She may have ulterior motives for once I drink this, I may go to sleep and never wake up. But maybe it's
I hear the witch talking. Is that serious?
I've said too much. Right. Oh man. But I don't know why. So right. Again, high upside, but a lot of risk to the witch. And then you've got Dr. Frankenstein, which again, pro doctor, has a lab, probably maybe more sanitized as much as the 1800s allowed. Like, blow on this knife. Good. Into the surgery room with you. Maybe it's more, probably use alcohol. So you've got him in the other corner sitting there. And, right, I mean, it's, maybe I go with Dr. Frankenstein for just the reason that I'm slightly risk averse, and now that I think about it, pretty convinced that if I drank anything of which gave me, I'd end up inside some kind of chicken pot pie being served to the town. So I can't open myself up to that kind of risk. I think even though Dr. Frankenstein is doing some non-board certified surgeries and has, perhaps ulterior motives to what's going on in that castle up on the mountain, maybe he's making solid beer on the side. I'm good to try that. I'm going Dr. Frankenstein. It's still a roll of the dice. Maybe less so. I mean, obviously got his monster to worry about, but I mean, he should be in the town kind of doing monster in the town things, and I'm up in the castle enjoying a beer. That's my really thorough metric by metric breakdown of this Would You Rather, John. What are your thoughts? Give me what you got.
I don't know what you've left.
Yeah.
For me, it's a much easier decision. I play Dungeons and Dragons.
True.
I would love to drink a beer that's made by a witch.
All right.
I think with a high enough roll, with a high enough investigation roll, I'm not going to touch that beer. But with a good enough constitution and a hope that maybe this is how I get my superpowers.
Okay.
I'm gonna drink the witch's beer.
Like
she's probably a nice witch. Most of history's brewers have been female, so there's a leg up there. And this is probably, for me, it's gonna be like, hey, John, drink this beer. I brewed it in my cauldron. Yeah, there's a couple of newts in there, but if you get it down, I need you to do me one simple favor, and I'll make sure the Bills win a Super Bowl before you die.
I see.
So there's I'm going for the witch beer, and I'm hoping that it works out well. Plus, I love chicken pot pie. Hopefully, I'm not part of it, but
exactly, never good to be on the inside of a chicken pot pie. Just the outside. Words to live by.
Any of you guys have better ideas or suggestions or outcomes? Please hit us up on Twitter at That Beer Podcast. And if you've been following at That Beer Podcast and we've been doing our job, you've likely seen some really creepy cryptid pictures. Harrison, you promised me a story about the Batsquatch. I've got a little bit left in my cup. Let's have it, man. Tell me what you know. Tell me what you know about the history.
The history of the Batsquatch. So, this, at first look, you may be thinking, Rogue has some creative artists. What a fun little critter they made up in their minds. And you'd be wrong. Dead wrong. Because the Batsquatch is real, maybe. So this didn't come out of someone's imagination, although actually it may have very much come out of someone's imagination.
All great things do.
Right, sure. So the story here, as you gather around this whatever proverbial campfire we've got cooking, is that the Batsquatch is a flying cryptid. It's allegedly sighted around after the Mount St. Helens eruption, May 18th, 1980. In the Pacific Northwest. So it kind of coincided, his silence covered the land with the ash and the brimstone of the recent explosion. Something ripped through that silence. That something was the cryptid we know as the Batsquatch. And so, starting around this time, fair amount of sightings of this beast begin. It resembles kind of a flying primate, which is pretty interesting because, of course, as we all know, the Pacific.
Here we are with the Wicked Witch of the West again.
Right,
Sorry,
flying monkeys, and all. It all comes back to houses falling on people. So similar to the Ahul or the orange bati of Southeast Asia, this one is. But yeah, again, Pacific Northwest is known for like Bigfoot sightings, so not surprising if perhaps a relative that can fly is also there. Maybe it's very surprising to you. We may be departing kind of where my reality ends and everyone else's begins very quickly. And of course, it's a combination of the name itself, Bat and Sasquatch. So there's a natural kind of marriage there. Let's get to the sightings, though. So the first one of note, 1994, Brian...
Wait, sightings?
Yeah, sightings of the Batsquatch, exactly.
Okay.
Out in the world, we've got some bored people in the woods making up sightings. Or we've got some honest working people seeing something they can't explain. You be the judge. April 1994... Brian Cainfield, he was driving in Washington's Pierce County, up in all the trees, when his truck suddenly died. Interesting, not too mysterious. That happens.
It happens. I've had a truck before. Yep,
exactly. That's right. Cainfield said a large creature then landed in front of him. Said it was human-like, about 9 feet tall, with bat-like wings, and also sported a coat of blue fur. And this was such an interesting report that like a local reporter went out there, wrote a whole story about it. Thought the reporter himself thought that Brian was really credible, seemed like an honest guy who just saw something weird he couldn't explain, wasn't out to make quick buck or whatever. So they published it. However, since then it's been kind of, hit by a lot of skeptics as a hoax because there just hasn't been, there's just no proof, right? There's no pictures. Everyone wants a body, all this stuff. Hasn't happened. Jump forward to 2009, a possible second sighting now, reported near Mount Shasta in California. A lot of hikers witnessed a huge creature with leathery wings. This one spanning 50 feet. What? What?
That's like nine bald eagles.
That's like there's a 40 chickens. Flying school bus coming to take you out. I don't know what they saw, but it flew out of a crevice in a mountain. At first they kind of described it as very similar to like a pterodactyl, but then as they kind of were questioned again and again, it slowly evolved into something that kind of was more like a bat and a fox hybrid. So who knows? Mountains of California, who knows what they may have been imbibing? Maybe water, maybe more than water, but they seem to maybe see something. And then the most recent one that I could find was in June of 2011, a man calling himself Phoenix Tierres, which is a pseudonym, unsurprisingly, was in his yard walking his dog, went to pick up the dog when he saw something in the sky. And in his own words, he says, "I saw something fly in the sky, it had bat wings, blue fur, and a face similar to eyes glowing red. It was about 9 feet tall at least. After I watched it, it just flew away." So something is going on in the Pacific Northwest. Rogue's drawn our attention to it. Love these stories. I'm a big fan of Monster Hunters and all those shows of what could be. So this beer grabbed my attention in a couple of different ways. And we really don't know, obviously. That's the fun part about this, is it could be nothing, crazy hallucinations, swamp gas, an escaped primate from a zoo, whatever. But it certainly listed a lot of interesting stories, some fun kind of Americana, if you will, to tell around the campfire, especially this time of year. So pumped guy to share with you guys. But if you have, please hit us up on Twitter, jump in the Facebook group. If you had weird sightings of the New Jersey Devil or the Ohio Grassman or the skunk ape of southern Florida or anything in between, I want to know. I know John wants to know. But yeah, please share it with us. And if you can't share it with us, share it with your friends. Grab a beer, jump around a fire, or pause that scary movie and regale everyone with that time your car died in the woods and you made up seeing a monster. Because
It's not made up. I actually saw the
Right,
time you actually
exactly.
saw a monster. Well, I mean,
allegedly. But anyway, who knows? The truth is out there, as Mulder and Scully would tell us right now. It's up to you to find it. So I'm not saying drink a bunch of beer and running around in the woods, but there are worse things
but if you
could
do
with your time.
come back with the story. I don't know how to top that. That was I wanted to sit down and like put on my smoking jacket and crack open another Batsquatch and listen to that story again. I saw something flying in the sky. It had bat wings and blue fur.
Right.
I mean, come on. What a great testimonial.
Exactly right.
Begin your Halloween on the right foot. And let's rewind with some Untappd updates.
Sure.
Let's rewind or pause or freeze frame. Let's get to some Untappd updates.
Do it.
First off, thank you to everyone that joined us on our 10th year celebration last weekend.
So cool.
That was great. You can watch it. Check us out on Untappd on the YouTube channel. You'll probably see it on there. It was amazing. Harrison and I traveled back in time. I'm hoping to make Mandy's brownies, maybe with any stout that I have left over. That was great, and it's not done yet.
Right.
We're coming soon, November 14th. Those of you in Europe, we're going to be doing on the 14th and the 15th. Harry and I are going to be doing we're cooking something up. We're not cooking brownies, but for Untappd's European Fest, there's beers. We're I don't want to say we're smarter, but we've kind of segmented this out into a few different days and a few different boxes of beers. If you're in Europe and you're listening to the podcast, check it out. Check us out on coming up on there, or go to Untappd and look into the European Fest. You can watch it from anywhere, but you can only get the beers if you're in Europe.
Well, thanks so much, guys, for letting us share Rogue's Batscotch with you tonight and indulging us in some spooky would you rathers and perhaps an even spooker or maybe hilarious / ridiculous campfire monster story. But I had a lot of fun. I know John did too.
And next week will be it's not spooky next week.
Well,
Sorry,
it kind of is.
We'll be catching up with Ryan Wheaton from Craft Brew Creative. We interviewed on Ryan's podcast a couple of weeks ago, and Ryan's going to be coming on to Drinking Socially for the last Beer 101 10 of 10. We're bringing him on. We're talking about marketing and beer marketing, and we're going to be drinking kind of one last homage to a creepy beer with Lord Hobo's Doom Sauce.
Love it. I'm looking forward to that. It'll be great. Other than that, as you guys know, show notes will be available at podcast@untappd.com. Any questions you have, any feedback, again, share those monster stories with us. You can connect with Untappd on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, or directly with us at facebook.com/drinkingsocially or on Twitter at @thatbeerpodcast. Love to see anything you want to talk about. Hit us up. Like I said, we'll be sharing fun things. We try to do it almost every day. Love to get your takes on what we're kind of throwing out there into the ether that is the interwebs. But other than that,
we'll see you guys next week. Cheers.